The Note 10 and Note 10 Plus are out, and now we know on September 10th we're going to find out about the new iPhone. Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you'll come back again by doing the things like subscribe, blah, 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 all that stuff. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. If you want to help support the channel, I just launched channel memberships. Join button down below and link, if the button's not there, below that in the description. So anyway, let's talk about this. Should you switch to the Galaxy Note 10? No. Galaxy Note 10? No. Galaxy Note 10 Plus, now that's worth discussing, and so we will. The iPhone, of course, is always the iPhone. The iPhone, depending on how you look at it, is a smartphone with training wheels or something that is integral to a larger ecosystem that, you know, is your interface with the rest of your stuff in a larger scheme of things. I've gone on record many times about how I feel about the iPhone. Sometimes I get frustrated with it. Sometimes I really like it. Sometimes I get frustrated with Apple, and anyway, love-hate relationship with Apple. But now we've got the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. I've had it in my hands now for a little over a week, and while I did say in a video a couple of days ago that I wasn't super in love with the phone, in large part because it wasn't really any different than the Note phones that had come before. It's sort of an iterative update. After using it for several days, I've come to really understand again why it is that people love the Note phones in the first place. Generally, this thing is a Swiss Army knife. All Samsung phones have a lot of options that you can do lots of different things with them, but the Galaxy Note phones in general are the ultimate Swiss Army knife phones where you can do just about anything that you want with this phone. And it's got the S Pen, and it's got a great camera, and it's big, so you got a giant screen. It's almost, the screen is almost as big as a 7-inch tablet. Okay, it's a big screen. It's a big phone. So if you're thinking about switching from the iPhone to the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, here are some areas where I think you should focus. Number one is the aforementioned screen. The screen on this phone is absolutely fantastic without peer at this point in phone stuff. It just looks really, really good. The colors are very good, not as saturated with Samsung as Samsung used to be. It is just a really good-looking screen, and Samsung also offers you some different profiles of what you might like the screen to look like. This is the natural setting. I like the natural setting, and it looks good. It looks color accurate. It is bright. It is sharp. So, the screen on this, now this is the iPhone XR. We all know that the screen on the iPhone XR is like 840p. It's not a bad screen. It's not a bad screen at all. But it is nowhere near this screen. It's not a fair comparison. This is a $750 phone. This is a $1,100 phone. So it's not necessarily a fair comparison, but when comparing even to the iPhone XS and XS Max, this screen just actually screams quality. It's the best you're going to see for a while, unless Apple pulls something out of their hats on September 10th and they're way ahead of all screens. But see, here's the thing. Samsung makes these screens for Apple, most of them at least, and I think Samsung always keeps the really good stuff for themselves. and with the Note 10 Plus, it's working. Another area where the Note 10 Plus is going to outshine to a certain extent, especially the iPhone XS Max, the Max size phone, whether it's called a Pro or a Pro Max or a whatever. The size of this screen at 6.8 inches is ginormous. It's not as ginormous as some other phones might be, but it is big enough that, like, I don't feel like I need a Kindle if I'm carrying this phone and I want to read some books. That's how big it is. But the Note 10 Plus this year weighs a little bit less than its Note 9 predecessor, and definitely weighs a considerable amount less than the iPhone XS Max. My wife has a XS Max, and when I hold the two, I mean, you can definitely feel the difference in the size and the weight. So if size and weight are two things that you're really thinking about, if you want the big screen but not the heavy phone, then this is the phone you need to be looking at right now. The next area that I think is really important to a lot of consumers is, of course, the camera. The camera on this phone is good. It's really good. It's very, very good. The big difference between this camera and the iPhone camera comes in the features that it offers, okay? So right now, this has 3 different camera lenses. There's ultra wide angle, there's wide angle, there's telephoto. And so you got that choice of 3 different camera lenses, but you've also got things like live focus video, super slow-mo, super hyperlapse. There's live focus, there's pro mode if you want to get really granular about the settings that you're using, panorama, night mode, food mode. I think there's even a way that you can post to Instagram straight from this phone, but I haven't tried that yet. The iPhone camera, on the other hand, is more simplistic. And a lot of people like that. A lot of people like that they can just grab the iPhone, they can pull out the camera, and they can take a picture, and it looks really good. But for the people who want to have a few more options, a few more bells and whistles, a few more things that they can control themselves with the camera to get more out of it, then the Note 10 Plus has it over the iPhone all day long. Next, we're going to talk about the S Pen. The whole reason that the Note exists is the S Pen. The S Pen is the whole reason that this phone is unique among all other phones, not just Android phones and not just iPhones, but this phone is unique among all other phones because of the S Pen and the added functionality that it offers. It's a good way to sort of interact with the phone, a little bit more precise with the tapping and such. It's also great because you can take quick notes with it. You can, smart select, so screen capture just a portion of your screen and then write on the screen itself by taking a screen cap and then writing on it. Live messages and AR doodles, which are things that I don't necessarily care about. They're kind of gimmicky, but they are kind of fun to fool with. You can get translations by just hovering the pen over text, and then you've got pen up for drawing. You've got the opportunity to write screen off memos. So if your screen is off, you just want to grab the pen, take a quick note, and say eggs. That says eggs. Then you can do that with the S Pen. The S Pen, a lot of people don't quite get it. A lot of people don't quite understand the S Pen, but if you're somebody who's used the S Pen a ton, if you're somebody who's had the Note line of phones for quite a while, then you understand how much additional functionality the S Pen brings to the experience of the phone, how much more functional and versatile it makes the phone become. And the iPhone just doesn't really have anything like that allows it to expand in functionality. There have been rumors going around that we may see pencil support on the newer iPhones, but that's not yet been confirmed. If it is confirmed, then I think it'll be fantastic. However, still, having used the iPad with the pencil and having used the Note line of phones for as long as I have, the S Pen still brings more functionality right to your fingertips than the pencil ever really does. The pencil has gotten better in terms of support over the years, but it doesn't really hold a candle to the overall functionality that the S Pen does for these Note phones. That brings us to the last category of things that you should be considering if you're thinking about switching from the iPhone over to something like the Galaxy Note 10. And this is something that's at the core of the differences between Apple's iOS and Android and whatever flavors it comes. Now, Samsung has their own interface that's sort of layered on top, their own launcher that's layered on top of stock Android. They call it One UI, and it gives you a lot of Samsung related stuff. It gives you the ability for in-display fingerprint reader. If you're somebody who hates the new iPhones because you lost Touch ID, there's an under-the-screen fingerprint reader on the Note 10 and the S10 models as well. It also gives, this is basic Android stuff, but it gives you the opportunity to make your home screen whatever you want it to be. If you want widgets like with your calendar or something like that on your phone, then you can do that with Android, whereas iOS, of course, gives you the stock wall of apps and you can arrange them to a certain degree, but arranging them is weird and difficult. This is just much more versatile. You just get more control over your experience using an Android phone than you do with an iPhone. And with the Note 10 Plus, you get that much more because of all of the extras that Samsung layers into their version of Android, as well as I said before, the S Pen. Now, so if you're out there and you're thinking, should I wait for the iPhone or should I just go for the Note 10 Plus because I know I want a big phone and who knows what the iPhones are going to be. If you've been on the iPhone for a while and you think, oh geez, maybe I want to jump over to the other side and check out what the Android operating system has to offer, what you're going to get when you do that, if you do that, is more control, more versatility, in some ways better hardware, in some ways not the convenience and the ease of use of iOS. It takes a while to get into Android and to get it working for you the way that you want it to work, whereas the iPhone just works the way it works, and if you're familiar with that, you know what it is. You're not going to get the deep level of integration with the Apple ecosystem. So if you've got an iPad, a MacBook, an Apple TV, all those kinds of things, Apple Watch, you don't get that level of integration with an Android phone. But I guess the trade-off is something like the Note 10 Plus is a little bit more of a jack of all trades. It can do so many different things without having to have other devices around it. Samsung has a program called Dex that if you plug this into a monitor and you get a wireless mouse and keyboard, you can actually use this for light productivity in terms of Google Apps and that kind of thing. You get your phone on a screen. You can also hook this up to a Mac or a PC and get a virtual picture of your phone that you can interact with and trade back and forth content from your phone to your computer. And for the first time, Samsung has actually announced a partnership with Microsoft that it looks like they're trying to build some kind of ecosystem that dovetails in with Microsoft and what they do with Windows, so that there'll be a little bit of that ecosystem kind of feel that you get with the iPhone with Samsung's Note 10 Plus. Will it work? That still remains to be seen. But year in and year out, I get the Note phones year in and year out. Whether it's a phone that I'm going to switch to and keep or not, I'm always just kind of blown away by the amount of stuff that you can do with this phone, how beautiful the screen is, how well it's built, and just how much you can take the time to make it your own. It might take longer, it might take some doing, it might take some thought, but the Note phone can be a little bit of everything to you. And if that's something that you need and you're thinking about switching away from something like an iPhone, then this is definitely worth your consideration. Considering that the iPhone XS Max is still $1,149.99 and that the new iPhone, the iPhone 11 Pro or Plus or Max or whatever they're going to call it, is going to likely be more expensive. This phone at $1,100 is at least a little bit of a bargain compared to the bigger iPhones. So there's a lot to consider when you're thinking about making the switch from something like the iPhone to an Android phone. Is it for you? I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Have you considered switching from iPhone to Android, or have you considered switching from Android back to iPhone? If so, why? Let's have a boisterous discussion down in the comments, and we'll enjoy the pleasure of each other's company. So, anyway, once again, thanks so much for being here. If it was your first time, like, subscribe, bell notify yourself, and, all that stuff so you can come back and see more coverage of all these phones. Phone season is upon us, and we've just got a lot to talk about every single week. There's so much phone stuff happening. If you've been here before, once again, thanks so much for doing that. If you do want to support the channel and become a channel member, there's a few different levels at which you can join that. There's a lot of different perks that you get along the way with those different levels. So down in the description below, there's a link. There should also be a join button by the subscribe button. If there is, so check that out. Just click on it. No obligation. Click on it, see what I'm offering, see if it's for you. I thank you so, so much. To recap, my name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.